Top of the evening, everyone, and welcome to this very special Ash Wednesday episode of Truth Noir. It doesn't have anything to do with Ash Wednesday at all. It just happens to be Ash Wednesday. So I'm joined here once again by my, long-suffering, fellow rebel at arms, Dirk Beechum. How you doing, Dirk?
Muy bien, gracias.
Huh?
Thank you very much.
This is America, Dirk. You speak English now, damn it.
Yeah, I love America.
Anywho, no, speak whatever language you want, man. I don't give a shit. Since it is Ash Wednesday, and I saw, because I take the public transportation, because not only do I care about the environment,
Yeah, you do.
I am also poor.
Yeah.
So the two kind of go hand in hand. But I was on the bus and I saw, many people, obviously of the Catholic persuasion, walking around with the what have you. I like to call it the Catholic bindi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's what the one guy say on the previous show. He says, "Yeah." He goes, "So today I got to make sure that I put my joint out on my forehead."
Yeah, in honor of. But yeah, so
something that Jesus did.
To clarify for the non-Catholics out there, which me and Dirk both proudly are not.
Yeah, we're not Catholic.
But it is a specifically Catholic observance that they put the ash on their forehead to symbolize the what, Dirk? What does it mean?
Actually, I don't know. I should know. My one brother was raised Catholic. I have Catholic friends. I've been around Catholics my whole life, and I something about it's the beginning of Lent, I think.
That is key.
And that's the 40 days thing.
Yeah, you give up something for 40 days. And this is a kind of time of penance before the Easter observance when
you're getting ready for
Jesus was crucified and was dead for 3 days and resurrected on Easter Sunday. So yesterday was Fat Tuesday. That's where you have the big giant orgiastic party before you give up something for 40 days. And so what I'm curious about, Dirk, is what are you giving up for Lent? Even though you're not Catholic.
Nothing. I already gave up a lot of things. Being poor, you give up a lot of things.
That is true. But
you give up romance. You give up a lot of trips. You give up a lot of things because you're poor. So, yeah.
Despite being poor, I found one other thing that I can give up for Lent, and that is caring about stuff. I've decided to have a period of 40 days of just straight not giving a shit.
Yeah, give up.
That is my sacrifice.
Yeah, it's
because it's important, Dirk, to realize that no matter how bad things are, there is still something you can sacrifice.
Yeah, and also, it ties into, now which Jesus are we giving stuff up for? Republican Jesus or that liberal Jesus that most people don't follow?
Well,
because most people follow the Republican Jesus. Did you know there is one?
Well, we're gonna get to Republican Jesus.
Yeah, we will in a little bit. Let's take our time, but that's coming up, folks. You didn't know that, but most Christians follow Republican Jesus. And
Yeah, and the differences are quite striking.
Yeah.
But to get to the crux of today's episode, we're doing some more kind of quasi-political memes. Some of them, now these I isolated from the ones that you and me have found over the these many months of doing this show together.
Yeah.
The last episode we did, which just went up on the YouTubes,
Oh, good.
were kind of the ridiculous political memes. That were kind of absurd. And this time I wanted to showcase some of the memes that actually do what I feel like memes are sort of supposed to do, which is make good points without using a whole bunch of words. Like any good social commentary. There's some stuff we have with a bunch of words too, but most of them are kind of just poignant little cartoony looking things. The first of them is this one right here.
Oh, yeah, that says it all.
And yeah, I like this one because there's no bullshit about it. It's one person's interpretation of how governments act.
Yeah, or I would say we could also put / corporations.
Yeah, sure.
They come in and they're sneaky, and I love the way he's got his tongue out, because that's the way I look at Monsanto or Chevron or NSA or CIA. They're childlike, because they really are like a bully that hits you in the back of the head. And then when you get angry and say, that was wrong to attack me for no reason, or feed me genetically modified corn for no reason, or put pink slime into my ground beef for no reason, and not telling me about it, so that's smacking me in the head. So I'm going to protest about it. And then instead of you being a man and facing up to it and having a discussion, you bring the cops in, and they don't show. There'd be a fifth frame where that guy would be in the hospital.
Yeah.
He would be, they wouldn't just threaten him with the stick. They would be pretty liberal with that stick, and they would beat the crap out of him.
Liberal they wouldn't spare the rod.
Yeah, how those people in a lot of people don't know about the Occupy Wall Street that was done here in LA.
Sure, yeah, and in many places throughout the world.
A lot of times, what they did with those people? They would take people and they put them on buses, and then they would make them sit for like 7 hours, and some of them would have to pee themselves. And before they'd take them to jail, and then sometimes they would take them to jail, and then they would be like, let them out the next day, or they wouldn't even book them. So they knew they didn't have anything on them, but they would just mess with them. So they would make them sit in a bus or something with no water, no toilet, no nothing.
Right. Or one thing that I heard was that a lot of these people were camping out. They're like, we're going to stay here until our voice is heard, and so a lot of them had tents and some kind of bare necessity kind of survival stuff. And when they were removed,
gently
the police,
but firmly,
the police confiscated all their shit, and it's like, well, what does that say about the state of our Constitution, right? Your right to peacefully assemble and protest. When it is also legal for the police to accost you and destroy your property and confiscate your property and detain you for doing nothing more than exercising this very basic freedom.
Yeah, and you're not harming anyone else's property. It isn't like these people were breaking into places and trying to steal stuff.
Well, they were hurting the grass, though, Dirk.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And so, of course, you find a reason to do these things. So, yeah, and this is an example of what I think, whether you agree with it or not, maybe you're a statist and you think that, government, those are the people that, even though they
keep us civilized, some people would say that.
Yeah, they enact all of these ridiculous regulations that fine people a bunch of money whilst allowing corporations huge liberties to
be unregulated.
They
regulate us, but they won't regulate
the world. And basically enact a form of slave wagery. Wage slavery. Anyways. So you protest against it, and anyways, I really like this one. I think it makes a very good point. And if this had happened on like an elementary school playground, that asshole wearing the suit, he would have gotten taken before the principal and been like, hey, man.
And they would have had to call his parents and told him, you know, that's not how you behave.
Yeah, what are you being a bully for? People don't like that.
And yet billionaires behave like that all the time in our country.
With impunity.
Yeah. And, I mean, everything, and just dastardly deeds, like this weird thing about the additives that are in your inoculations. I'm not against inoculations, but I'm against all these weird additives. And we don't even have you know, at least when I go to the store, I have a choice of whether I want an apple or a GMO apple. That stuff, you don't even get a choice. You don't even.
Well, yeah, and you know, and
really, there's no other way.
And you won't have a choice because they removed the regulation that requires them to stop doing that.
I'm sorry.
And yeah, so they removed the regulation that even requires them to label one versus the other.
Yeah.
Now it's all just Frankenfood. And yeah, that sucks. Well, what are we gonna do about it? You know, well, you can do it the way they do in Europe, which is a little bit more fair to their people. Not to say that the European governments aren't run by shitheads too, but the people demand better of them and a better allocation of the resources that their respective nations produce.
I have a prediction about Western Europe and the United States. You know, as it is now, because they had their own experiment a couple decades ago with feeding remains of cows and other mammals to their cattle, their living cattle, to give them weight, and it created mad cow disease. It also created other bloodborne diseases, so a Western European cannot go to the United States and donate blood. But they've illegalized that practice now. So now their food supplies, ironically, went from being worse than ours to better than ours, because they not only do they not do that treatment anymore to their cows or their animals, but they also don't genetically modify their crops. And this is actually a thing that's in Eastern Europe and in Russia. They also don't. They're also against that. So I believe that in the next 10 or 20 years, you're going to have a thing where when our children grow up, it'll be the opposite. Now, if you were raised in North America during so-and-so years, you won't be able to go to Europe and donate blood because of the genetic. Because we ate GMO food.
Sure.
Just like they can't come to our country now and donate blood, you know.
Well, you know, and in Europe, I don't think they
because
would
food
need it
affects
so much
your stuff, you know.
Well, yeah, no, it most certainly does. You are what you eat.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, I don't think the Europeans would be in too much need of blood because they have a lot of preventative medicine, and and they don't get sick as much as we do, and they live longer. And
but I mean, it would be like I bet you'll put us on some kind of list.
Probably.
You know, do not transfuse with this guy because he.
Let's move along.
Sure, sir.
So yeah, and here's another one, and you know, I know a lot of quotes get associated to people that aren't necessarily something that they said. My favorite one is the one of the Lincoln Memorial, and so it's like big, you know, stone masonry, Abe Lincoln saying, you know, half of internet memes are false. Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Obviously that's bullshit, but it makes a good point of, you know, you know, don't believe everything you hear, or don't necessarily attribute something that you see to the picture of the person who, you know, who it's being attributed to. Not this one, though. This is something JFK said about a week, maybe a little bit more, before he was assassinated. He said, "There is a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman, and child. Before I leave this high and noble office, I intend to expose this plot." Sorry, Brody. The powers that be can't have that, and you reap the reward of it.
You get a head wound.
Yeah. Major head wound, bro.
Yeah, and we are being slowly more enslaved, you know. But who knows? There's enough people like Louis Silverstein out there that'll maybe come up with a plan to. But I'm scared of, you know, computers now are they're so snitchy. I mean, as anyone knows, I was listening to Ralph Nader Radio Hour, and they were talking about Your car's computer was originally getting smarter and smarter to help make it more fuel efficient. Well, now it's got 4, 5, 6 times the amount of written code in its programming than a Facebook page. And yet its fuel efficiency hasn't gone up. So now you have a computer in a car who's doing all this
just
thinking,
keeping tabs on you.
Yeah, and it's not making their airbags work better. I mean, at first it was done to help lower emissions, but now you have a computer that cars that every year are getting more and more complicated with computers, and yet it's now become, of course, we're finding out with Volkswagen and several other companies, now it's like secondary. So why is this car of mine thinking so much? What is it thinking about? I'll tell you what it's thinking about. It's tracking me and snitching me off, and it's just another way of collecting data, and which is not going to be there to help me. I mean, first of all, if it's not even really working the way it did 10 years earlier to help reduce the amount of smog that comes out the tailpipe, then if it can't even do that right, then I doubt if it's really concerned that, well, I might need to direct him to a hospital when he needs to get there.
Well, and you know what else it accomplishes? Another thing it does is it is very prohibitive if you want to try to do any work on your own car.
Oh,
because you
that's
get in there
another
and you fuck up the sensors
bullshit.
And then your car won't start or whatever.
Yeah, that's a scam. That's a scam right there.
I remember
computers are easier to work on. They're more complicated than they've ever been, and they're easier to work on than ever. Mm-hmm. It used to be my buddy in the early 90s. He's a computer tech. He's been one since the early 90s. He used to have a toolbox. Now he can work on it with a single screwdriver. And everything is pop in and plug in and snap in. So in other words, cars could be that way. You only need a few tools. You should be able to work on your entire car with a small set of tools. This whole thing that your cars need more tools now, that we now engineer cars less efficiently, where I have to take out more parts to change out a water pump or whatever. It's designed, it's engineered so it costs you more money. So you're now more of a slave. And they also don't want you to be used to working on your own car. Makes you independent.
And since
it's a scam.
Since the term's gotten brought up a couple of times so far in the episode, I want to clarify what we mean by slavery. Mm-hmm. Because I know there's a lot of people that are like, no, we're not slaves, we live in America, we're free. But consider this. I hate to sound like Rod Serling, but consider this. During the time of slavery, mm-hmm. a person who was considered property mm-hmm. was like they were considered property, but that property required maintenance and care that the owner was obligated to provide, like housing and clothing and food. And so those were things that as a slave, and I'm not saying it was a better condition, but those were things that were provided for you. Mm-hmm. Now, with this illusion of freedom that we have, now you're on the hook for all that shit yourself, and you trade in your life, right, for these pieces of paper. And those pieces of paper, generally speaking, are not enough to provide for the things that you need in life.
Yeah, and if you get sick, or you can't see a doctor, or you don't get to eat enough, now the mentality is, oh, it's your fault. What did you do wrong? You couldn't feed your kid on $10 an hour, and we just barely got this thing that's going to be repealed, by the way, in a few years.
Right.
This Obamacare or Affordable Health Care Pact, that's going to be out the door. Hillary wants it out the door. Everyone's out the door, and so they're not going to replace it with anything. So basically, we've had tens of thousands of people die. They said 50,000 people were dying a year before this. And it'll go back up to that number again. But when people died, and you talk to conservatives, I talk to my friends that go to church, I talk to, not even just Republicans, just that kind of Democratic friends. If somebody dies, I kind of go, well, what did that guy do wrong? Maybe he didn't do something right. It's like blame the victim.
Right. Yeah, because that's what Jesus was all about, right?
Oh, man, yeah.
Let's see if that one's next. Oh, no, not yet.
Masters of War. Oh boy.
It's here we go. Here's the Republican Jesus, and there's a few of them out here like this, but this one is a little bit of a satire on the was it the 23rd Psalm?
Yeah, and this is not Psalm. I think it's Matthew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Matthew, because
so, yeah, I mean, the actual one is you were hungry and I was hungry and you fed me.
Yeah.
I was naked and you clothed me. And so you take that kind of message that should be ubiquitous and the most important to people who claim that they're...
Most of my friends that go to church, whether they're Mormon or... go to Azusa Pacific University or California Lutheran University or any of the other BS Christian colleges, and this is to me the Jesus they follow.
Yeah, let's check it out.
You were hungry and thirsty, so I eliminated funding for Meals on Wheels and food banks. You were a stranger, so I vilified you and demanded that you be deported. You were naked, so I called you an evil liberal who hates conservative family values. You were sick, so I repealed your only hope for health care. You were in prison, so I tortured you. That, to me, is the mindset of your average person that attends church on a regular basis.
Yeah, man.
Every person I know that goes to church, I'd say 80-90% of them, when you ask them about anything about, should we have, food, give free food to the poor? Should we... how should we handle someone who's impoverished that came to this country for a better life? How should we, healthcare? What's the healing? People
there's so
I got neighbors like that.
You have that conversation with certain people, and they're like, "Well, we should, make laws that allow for people to work for these things and get them off the street." And our leadership that we're voting for, they're telling us that that's what they're going to do, and they never do, because that's not in their best interest. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to pick sides on it. I'm not. As it turns out, none of them do.
Yeah.
All while touting Christianity as their big,
Yeah, I don't think it's an accident. I think that when you read the Bible, Jesus is a liberal, and if somebody didn't guide your mind, you would tend to think that Jesus was a liberal, and this is wrong. I think that it's not a coincidence that no matter where you go, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics, or just regular Bible study Christians, like people who go to Azusa Pacific, or in Europe they would call them Protestants. For some reason here we don't call them Protestants. But no matter how wide and varied these Christian branches of Christianity are in North America, for some weird reason they're all the same. They're all anti-poor. They're all pro-corporations. They're all pro-war. It's not an accident that they're all happen to be lockstep. It's not an accident. And some of my Mormon friends get upset because they're like, "No, we've got to be different. We're so different." No, you're not different. You're exactly the same. You're pro-war. You're anti-gay marriage. But by God, if I bring up have you show that same kind of fervor about the banks who threw 8 million people out on the streets during 2007. Oh, now I'm judging. I need to stop being so negative, and and that's the way all these branches are.
Well,
so in other words, I believe they have plants in them. I believe that corporations send certain people in, and they say, hey, when you get these liberals that talk too much about the food banks and the free Medicare and that Jesus likes the poor people, don't make him minister. Keep him down. Raise the other guy up when he talks about the gay marriage, that the gays are the bad people that hurt our country, and the Mexicans are the bad people that hurt our country.
We need to push that the earth is 6,000 years old.
Oh, yeah, and that we need to have, we shouldn't have free food for people because people gotta get off their lazy fucking ass. Jesus, that wasn't Jesus' message. And that's another thing. In the 70s, when I became born again in the late 70s, and I was a big Christian for many years before I became, I don't know what I am now, but I don't call myself Christian. But
so you don't hate the poor anymore?
No, well, no, I always loved the poor. I always loved the poor because I was a liberal Christian. That's why I fell away. Most Christians, people who say they used to be Christian and that fell away, are all liberal, or mostly liberal. And all Christians that still continue to go to church on a regular basis, like almost every Sunday, and they're in their 30s or whatever, they're conservative. That would be a good analysis for another day. But the thing I wanted, what were we talking about? We were talking about Christians are poor war. Anyway.
All right, moving right along.
Yeah, I lost my idea.
So, oh yeah, and there's this also like.
But I don't believe it's an accident. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I think it's very carefully.
Why would they all be the same?
Yeah, because you take one of.
I should be able to walk into the Mormon church, and it should be completely different when I walk in a Catholic church.
If you think about these golden rule kind of things, like that is really unarguable.
Yeah.
By itself, that's all there should be. Right?
Yeah.
Let's push that message, and that fundamentally, I feel like, is what's been corrupted almost irrevocably.
Yeah.
I mean, not irrevocably. People just need to pull their heads out of their asses.
I think if we could get these corporate provocateurs out of churches, I think your church would naturally start turning liberal, because you can't help but to read Matthew and realize, hey, you're not going to. It says right there. The disciples ask him, how do we get the kingdom again? Be clear with us again. And they're asking him, he's explaining it to him. He says, I'm going to set it out here. You can't get to heaven unless you take care of the least among us. Period.
Yeah, man. It's definitely one of those things where that message has gotten corrupted, and people don't see it. It's very similar to I wanted to go back a couple to this one that you found. No, not that one. Right, here we go. Rod Serling.
Can I read it?
Imagine, if you will, a world where people argue about flags and Kardashians, but ignore war crimes, corporate corruption, and their fake monetary system. And I think that's a real good one too, because there's other shit going on in the world, and people get distracted so much by the, and I would call it all pornography, is basically what it is. It's that, like, regardless of whether it's like Kardashians or some kind of other distraction, that's really all it is. There was the ballot measures. They were the two dueling ballot measures for raising taxes to raise money for the state college system. Mm-hmm. How many millions, probably hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in advertising money got spent to promote one versus the other, right? To convince us which one to vote for, to raise our taxes to make money for schools, when they could have just given that hundreds of millions of dollars to the schools.
Oh, yeah, but they don't want to do that because you want educated people.
These are the things people at large are not paying nearly enough attention to, or getting nearly as pissed off about as they should.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next? I liked this one. Land of the Free. Okay, so now this one I like because we imprison more of our citizens than any other nation on the earth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In fact, it's more than the entire population of many nations on the earth, to the tune of about 1% of our entire population is incarcerated at any given time.
Oh, yeah, well over 1%. We broke that a couple decades ago.
And they are only building more prisons.
Yeah, we're pushing 2% now.
With, I can only assume, with the intent of filling them.
Oh,
And I don't know, man. I don't think there's that many bad people in America.
No, there's not. No, to this day, we still have, even though we've known better since the 80s that it was wrong, to this day we still have 60% of our prisons filled with non-violent criminals. Mm-hmm. And privatization of prisons will only make that worse, because privatization is not there to uphold the law. It's there just to fill a bed. Mm-hmm. One thing about a public prison that's run by the people at least, as terrible as they are, they're not there to fill a bed, but they want to privatize because they want to,
Yeah, and I don't know if you were hosting the episode with me. It was one of the much earlier episodes that we did on this show that was about the private for-profit prison system and how they have like contracts to where they'll build a prison and that state government is contractually obligated to fill I think it's at least half of those beds. So even if there's not that many bad people in the area, they'll start making shit up.
Yeah.
And this is not
something you want this country to do.
Yeah.
And that's not freedom, by the way.
And
that's anti-American.
And this is not a thing that is like on the fringes of believability. Like they've done Dateline episodes
this is not like,
where they go to these places. And that's the truth, folks.
They shatter people's lives. And then of course, then they don't want to feed the guy when he finally gets out, and they don't want to give him a decent minimum wage either. So then they're like, I wonder why he's back to selling drugs again. It's like a mystery.
Let's see, we already did Republican Jesus. What did Bobby Kennedy have to say? Oh, so yeah, any of you watching that are, thinking we're un-American,
This is what he says about being the sharpest criticism often goes hand in hand with the deepest idealism and love of country.
Yeah, because nothing's perfect, folks.
I love this country.
Absolutely.
And I love it to death, and there's so many great things about it, and I don't want to see it go down because some the 1% corporations want to run. I don't want to see Americans. A lot of these good Americans that are in prison, most of them are good Americans that are getting their minds and their emotions destroyed. I don't want to see that because they're good Americans. Why should they have to suffer?
Well, yeah, and they're going to come out of prison one of these days, bringing with them the same kind of disrespect and lack of expectation.
But it wasn't because they were born that way. It was because somebody took my tax dollars, and made him be a bad person. He wasn't born a bad person, but now he is a bad person because you housed him in this hellhole. And anyway, so we are great Americans. And like John RFK says, you're a good American because you call out the bad things in America, not because you're silent and look the other way on bad things.
So yeah, we were bashing Republican Jesus a minute ago, and so this is a good one I like. I don't know who Steven Weinberg is, or even if this is his quote. I just I like the sentiment of this. With or without religion, you would have good people doing good things and evil people doing evil things. But for good people to do evil things, that takes religion.
Yeah, there we go.
Let's not forget, people, the Holocaust occurred under a what you would call a Christian leader.
Yeah, I believe in that. He said that perfectly. It's something that I've observed about. I had trouble putting it into words because some people don't quite quote that right. But now that I see that, those are words I believe. Yeah. If you're going to, like my neighbors are such wonderful people. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they went to Azusa Pacific, they jog every day, they don't curse, and yet,
well, how does that saying go that
they're pro
jogginess is next to godliness? I think is how it goes,
and yet
that's all you need.
They have been talked to by religion to be they're against. He got mad at me when I said, we could help our education and our welfare system if we just reverse some of the Bush tax breaks. That's all I said, and he was like, "What? No, blah blah." And in other words, he was willing to let our Social Security. I said, "What if it was going to save our Social Security system by reversing the Bush tax breaks?" And he literally had it in his mind that it would be better to not reverse the Bush Jr. tax breaks and let Social Security flounder. So this is a supposed Christian, but he's not unique. He's average, actually, in beliefs like that.
I want to close on this one because we're running out of time, but I liked this one a lot, and this is this pick includes my three favorite people for this topic. And when I say favorite, I mean most despicable. And what we have behind them is a quote from, Bob Dylan's, personally one of my favorite Dylan songs, Masters of War. Mm-hmm. And so, I won't beleaguer the point by talking about how these shitheads got into office and just...
You want to read it?
Yeah, sure. So Bob Dylan asks all of the, warmongering shitheads of past and future. He said, "Let me ask you one question. Is your money that good? Will it buy you forgiveness? Do you think that it could? I think you will find when your death takes its toll, all the money you made will never buy back your soul."
Yeah.
Now, I actually like the last verse of that song a little bit better. Are you familiar with it? Mm-mm. He said, and of course, this is not me saying this about any of the three in this picture. I'm quoting Dylan. He said, "And I hope that you die, and your death will come soon, and I'll follow your casket on a pale afternoon, and I'll watch while you're lowered down into your death's bed, and I'll stand over your grave till I'm sure that you're dead."
Good.
So, Godspeed the day, especially for these three assholes, who did not just create a lot of misery in America, but worldwide. They are verifiable war criminals, and the evidence is out there in spades. They have actually been convicted of war crimes in numerous nations.
Oh, yeah. There's Dick Cheney. Those three men, there are several countries throughout Europe, Africa, and Asia where they can't ever set foot for the rest of their life, or they'll be arrested.
There are open arrest warrants out for them, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and rightfully so. They did horrible, horrible things.
Yeah. So, anyways, you guys, this is a little bit of hodgepodge. This was stuff that and I know Dirk touts liberalism a little bit more than I try to, although we kind of usually end up on the same page more often than not. I don't know. I don't know that one side over the other is going to lead our country to salvation or whatever. All I know is what I see that's bullshit, and it comes from both sides as far as I'm concerned.
We'll bash Hillary next time. How about that?
Yeah, no, I definitely want to. I want to give all the candidates a good
thrashing,
running through before the election gets here.
Yeah.
But that's about time for us, folks. All y'all, keep your head on straight. Don't allow your churches or government officials to tell you what's what. Think for yourself, please, because no one wants some fucking idiot quoting Fox News. We're better than that. All right? So, in the meantime, I want to thank Dirk. He's that guy right there once again. He's the one who helped me find a bunch of these fun little tidbits, and it's always a pleasure having you on.
Thank you, sir.
Happy Ash Wednesday to you.
Yeah, that's right. I got to do my homework on this.
Go put ash on your forehead, and honestly, like, kind of contemplate the sacrifice or whatever. There's stuff to be learned from it.
Yeah.
I guess. Fuck, I don't know.
What was it? What's that old thing? The Bible and the Quran and the Talmud all have three things in common. They were written by groups of people who didn't know what a bacteria was, they didn't know what an atom was, and my favorite, they didn't know where the sun went at night.
Think about that shit. I'm not saying there's good philosophy in all of them.
Yeah, the helping the poor is the good one.
But there's also a lot of obsolete horse shit that we shouldn't allow to sway our opinions with how we treat our fellow man, right?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I'll get off my soapbox and say thanks for watching, and wherever you're going, get there safe. Take care. We'll catch you next time.